Okay, guys, welcome to another episode of the Wealthlab Podcast with Phil Sproul and Scott Jackson. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today is an Easter special. Comes around but once a year, and we're going to kick in. You're probably getting ready for their Easter weekend. So, Phil, talk to us. What's your thought for today?
Well, I'm just going to talk about mindful spending, but obviously in the context of Easter, but there's some tips here that will apply equally to any time of year. But this all came off the back of, I just came across Roy Morgan's survey that they do every year around Easter spending, and to be honest, it blew my mind. Just supposed to say, I felt like some of it was fucking insane. Maybe I'm just tight, I don't know. So you can give me your thoughts.
We'll make that judge. Let's go. Let's see what you're.
Yeah, well, cost of living is a huge topic at the moment. We're all saying we're tight. The cost of everything's going up. Housing's expensive. Blah blah blah. But for some reason, we're still spending $1.7 billion as a nation on Easter eggs and hot cross buns, which is actually an increase of $200 million from last year, when we weren't supposed to be having a cost of living crisis. So I don't know, figure that one out.
I question that. So that's like discretionary spending above, like, so on an average weekend, we spend X, but on only hot cross buns and Easter eggs, it's 1.7 billion.
I reckon it's a survey. The survey's as good as, it's a survey that they do where they ask people their intentions on what they're spending. So, yeah, okay. Who knows? It's only as good as the input, but
Let's be clear. If someone's and they Google it, what's the article called? What's the name of it called?
It was Roy Morgan. I don't know what it was. Something Easter survey.
Okay, let's have a check.
Just Google Roy Morgan's Easter. You'll find it. So that blew my mind, to be honest, because I would never in a million years.
Retailers Association. So the Australian. Yeah, in conjunction, so the Retailers Association, in conjunction with Roy Morgan, revealed the Aussies are tipped to spend almost 1.7 on hot cross buns, Easter eggs, and other special food for Easter. Up 14.5% from the prior year. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, Phil, where are you? If I'm listening to this, what should I be mindful of? Less Easter eggs for the kids?
Well, no, I don't necessarily think it needs to be less Easter egg for the kids, but there's a few things. I'll run through a few tips in a sec, but on that specific topic, my kids don't care whether they're getting the top of the line fancy Lindt chocolates or whether they're getting the bloody, dodgy old Cadbury. It doesn't matter. You don't have to buy the flash stuff. They're just happy with whatever chocolate we throw at them. So, there's tip number one. You don't have to be, buying from the top shelf. But I get a couple of other things to sort of think about. I mean, it sounds pretty obvious, but people don't do it. Set yourself a budget, work out, and it should be in the context of your overall household budget. So what can you actually afford to spend on Easter, not what do I want to spend on Easter? So work through that, set your budget, and stick to it. Hand in hand with that is you need to track your spending to make sure that you're sticking to that budget.
What would you say for a family of two, normal family, what should we be budgeting? What should it look like?
Oh, look, I think I find questions like that really difficult to answer because it's going to be different for every household. And it's like we were just talking about the travel budget, where I said last year people on average were spending $2,000 per person on travel over the long weekend. That average is going to be skewed because there's people like me that have probably spent $150 on a campsite, but there's people that spent $15,000 on an apartment at Noosa. The same's going to apply to Easter eggs. Some families will probably need to be sticking to $20, where the others can probably afford a couple of hundred. It needs to be in the context of your overall household budget, and comes back to the importance of budgeting on a regular basis anyway to know what you can afford.
I think ultimately though, the thing with it when it comes to Easter or Christmas, it's like the things you remember are actually like the moments you spend with family.
100%.
And maybe just focusing more on that and less on spending, like you're being more mindful. So let's if you're leading into the Easter weekend and you're listening to this, it's what are things we should be thinking about it's like, all right, well, let's set a limit of X amount of dollars per child or per person or whatever that dollar amount is. Let's go up to that level, and then that's hit it. And then, for example, in my family, which I tell this story a lot, my old man takes the Easter egg hunt very, very aggressive.
Yeah.
Which is a weird thing to say for Easter egg hunt, but he likes to get the sticky tape out. He'll put things upside down. He's got a real specific radius. Now that doesn't cost anything to like guys, this is the specific radius. This is where you're sticking to. Off you go. And from age 0 to today, and this is even the next generation under us, you know, G-Jack's still doing the same thing. There is one medium-sized egg, which is the prize for the one who finds the most small-sized eggs. So the total cost on that is a bag of small eggs and a single medium-sized egg.
Yeah, mate, 100%. So last weekend, my daughter, she does dance, and her dance school had an Easter egg hunt up in Montville, beautiful spot. And same thing, it was just like a couple of bags of those tiny eggs. We were late getting there, so most of the eggs were found before we even got there. And I'm thinking, oh man, the kids are going to flip out. They maybe found 5 of those little eggs each. Had the time of their lives, could not have cared less about the Easter egg. It was about the experience, the fun, the adventure. So, yeah, definitely can save money there. One of my favourite tips when I'm talking about budget, sticking to your budget, we employ this in our household weekly, so this is just how we run our money. I know what we can afford to spend on groceries. I know what I can afford to spend on fishing gear or whatever else, and whatever my wife wants to spend her money on. That's our budget. We withdraw that in cash, and when the cash is gone, that's it. That money is gone. Don't touch the bank account again until next fortnight. So I'm a huge believer in running a cash budget like that for your shopping and your discretionary expenses. It's very, you know exactly where you are at all times. It's right there in front of you. So that's something that we employ that I love. Another big one I think is worth looking into is understanding your impulse triggers. What triggers Scott to buy something that he hasn't considered carefully beforehand?
Yes.
You know? I know for me it's mindless scrolling on Marketplace at night if everyone's gone to bed.
I was about to say the mindless scrolling.
Yep. Are you bored? Do you shop online when you're bored? Do you buy more crap at the checkout when you're hungry? Like all those little things. Anytime you make an impulse purchase, stop and think about what drove that purchase. And if you get to understand those impulse triggers, you can start to put strategies in place to avoid them. So that's another one.
What about so we're talking about like spending like less than $50. So what about, so people are going to be spending on average what, $2,000 in travel over the Easter weekend?
Yeah, apparently.
Well, what about this? So I had this conversation with my wife last Christmas. We were about to go traveling, and I made the decision to put new tires on the car before we jumped in the car and did a 10-hour drive.
Yep.
Would you say that's a good use of money, or should we wait it off, or what? Like, because that was an interesting trade-off, because it was $1,000, I think, or maybe more for a set of tires.
Yep. It depends if you needed tires or not, I guess.
We did.
Yeah.
And it was kind of quite clear from how the car was handling.
Yeah.
But like, we're talking about $50. You know, mindful. You know, don't spend $60, spend $50. But all of a sudden, I've just bought $1,000 on tires.
Yeah, that's a funny one. You know, I enjoy my 4-wheel drives. I'm a bit into that sort of culture and things. And you do commonly see the difference between a considered purchase and an impulse buy coming to 4-wheel drive tires. There's plenty of people who'll go and spend, $2,000 on a 33-inch mud tires just to make the ute look flash.
Really?
When there was no need for a new tire purchase. Yeah, so that's the thing, Whereas, I'll drive until my tires need to be replaced, and I'll replace them. If it happens before a holiday, whatever, that's factored into our annual budget. I know roughly what I'm going to spend on car maintenance every year, and that's factored in. The money's there when I need it. So, yeah.
So if you are like, look, there's lots of ways to do it. We have a Wealthlab budget that we have our clients run through, and we utilize a Sankey, Sankey distribution to visualize it. It works really well. So if you are listening to this podcast and considering joining, one of the things that we do is we have our clients go through a budget process. It's literally just an Excel spreadsheet, but it does consider what it's going to look like from mindful spending, planned spending, forced spending. And then we do have a nice visualization that we put into our statements of advice when that's finished. And I think it's just really important to manage the money mindfully, and just be careful of those triggers of just spending stuff on what we can almost say immaterial things.
Yeah, exactly right. Last two tips I've got. Consider your Easter shopping. So sit down and work out what you want to buy, and then compare where are you going. Look at the pricing around the place and compare it. I just did that with my beer. Local pub had 20% off store wide, so my garage is shortly going to look like a Bunnings loading dock. Not Bunnings, Dan Murphy's loading dock. But I've saved myself an absolute fortune. So look around, find the deals, use the coupons, don't be shy. That one, and the final one, Bunnings. Everyone spends money at Bunnings over Easter. If you're not going away, then odds are you're doing work around the house. I'm hopeless. I'll walk into a Bunnings, I'll come home with 10 ton of stuff I didn't need. Have a list, work out your project, work out what you need, stick to the list.
Bunnings got me. It got me with a car wash bucket.
Yep.
I just wanted to. I knew
car
I
wash
needed to wash
bucket.
the car.
Yeah.
And I came, it was $20 and I came with a bucket. Not only now do I have this bloody space, it had all this like stuff that I don't need.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so look, I'll throw my hands up and I say I regret that purchase.
Yeah, mate, we all do it. We all do it. And my final most valuable tip, don't take your bloody kids shopping with you. Don't take them into a supermarket when there is Easter eggs on display. Pester power is a powerful thing.
All right, I love it. That's 20 minutes. I think this is one of the longest podcasts.
Sorry, I got excited.
And and here's a summary: is we've got an ebook out. We've got an Excel spreadsheet that we use with our clients. ASIC has an excellent a budgeting tool. The key element is these things are just tools. They're irrelevant unless you sit down with your partner and the two of you mindfully go through it, have that conversation around what we're budgeting for the weekend. And I think that brings everyone much more together. And then focusing on the things you remember, not just that discretionary spend of time together with family, time together with the kids. That's really what Easter is all about anyway. And that's really what we're encouraging you to focus on.
Yep, 100%.
Love it. Thanks, Phil.
Pleasure.
Guys, if you've got any questions, if you've got any topics you'd like us to be talking about, please do send them in. We do like to see them come in. Also, if you are listening on Apple or Spotify, please subscribe. I can't believe I'm actually being that guy that's having to ask, but it really does help. It really does help us, and it doesn't cost you anything, and that would be much appreciated. So until next week, thanks so much. See you guys.
Have a great Easter, guys. Cheers.